At a time when we're losing our oldest and most precious trees and forests from around the world, I'm curious to understand if and why this matters to all of us. Welcome to the Meaning of Trees podcast. I'm Tom Hill, and it's here that I meet with people from all walks of life to explore the answers to one essential question. What do trees mean to you? Meli Tanuku Nakauvadra is the final podcast interviewee from my trip to Fiji, and a super interesting guy with a great enthusiasm for trees, traditional Fijian customs that keep young people connected to the natural environment, and someone who is passionate about supporting well-being and mindfulness. Meli is studying counselling and education at Fiji's National University, where he's grown a profile as a progressive and proactive mental health advocate. I was really grateful to hear his thoughts on how mobile technology is changing older ways of life in Fiji, what trees mean to him and iTaukei culture, and why they remain relevant in a developing country with a rich indigenous heritage to protect. Meli, thanks for meeting with me. We had a really interesting chat when we first met, and it's great to sit down with you again, actually, and continue that. The first question I'd like to ask you, if that's okay, is to understand a little bit about trees and what they mean to you.
First of all, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here and, to talk about something that is really, really, very important to especially people in the Pacific. The meaning of tree to me, it means health, it means life, it means spirituality, it means everything. So for me personally, I think tree is life. That's how I see it. And most importantly, trying to be, very protective of these things. Yeah.
And why do you feel like that? Like, what's made you view trees in that way, do you think? Where's that come from? Where did it start even?
Looking at trees, for me personally, I'm somebody who always wanted to be around nature, away from the business of life and, the hustle and bustles of things that are happening nowadays, towns, cities, areas. So I find comfort in nature and being around places or being in a place that is full of trees and full of just covered with trees and forests. I feel relieved in a sense. I'm not worried about, what of the sort of things that's happening. And it helps me to, to unpack these emotions, these stress things that, that normally happens when you're in town areas and in industrial places. But when I come out from these places and being into places that are filled with trees, and it just gives me that sense of stillness, and I'm more relaxed. Yeah. And peace. I'm at peace. Yeah. In that sense, that's how it made me look at it. Yeah.
Since we've been kind of chatting and getting to know each other, I know you've kind of been back and forth from a village life and then into the city for studying and such. And I also know that you are an observer of people. You really care about social issues and well-being. And I guess you're kind of living between two worlds in that way. So for the people you care about, what kind of things are you interested in?
One thing that I always interested in is the trees and the environment. These are some of the things that we can use to cope with the business life, mental issues, mental health issues, stressful living. So for me as a young person, indigenous young person, it's always my aim to take back people of this century, of this time and era, to take them back to the village and show them that we have these things that our indigenous forefathers, they used before, and they cope with things with life. Yes, I would agree that change is an inevitable event. Nobody can run away from it. But then, hey, we have certain things that were used in the past that sustain them through that difficult times. And why not? We can use that bottom line is that I just wanted to allow people or teach people, the native people, even though you are moving forward, but always remember that we have certain things, trees and nature, that can help us with, especially stresses on the rise now, health issues on the rise. So take them back and try to, to educate them. Oh, this is the things that we can use to cope with life challenges and issues.
Can you give me some practical examples of how you're managing to do this? So, yeah, what are some of the small things, I guess, that can make a big difference?
Personally, I'm, like you said, it's like I'm living in two worlds, like going back to the village life and come back to town. One project that I'm currently trying to start now is trying to teach the people in the interior to use sustainable resources, natural resources, to build things. For example, one thing that I found in some of the interior places, that bathrooms, simple things, and then the natural resources provide abundance of resources that they can be used to build bathrooms. That is sustainable. You don't need to buy materials for it. You can use, for example, bamboos. And I'm working with the young people, youth of that certain village or community, and try to draw up plans on how we can build a bathroom that's sustainable using sustainable resources like pebbles from the river and bamboos that are available. So that is one practical way.
Thank you. Yeah. And you brought with you a pine cone in coming to speak to me.
Yeah.
What's that about?
So, Tom, like back in the days, we normally use this as a mosquito repellent. This plant probably came in like European brought them in, but then after that we started using it for a mosquito repellent. Normally we do this, and then like I said, resources, the nature already provide things, and it's just that we are not paying too much attention to nature. Sometimes nature always speaks to us, but then we turn a blind eye because we live in a century where we are dependent too much on manufactured stuff rather than utilizing God-given resources. Yeah. So back in the days, I remember growing up, normally when we don't have enough money to buy mosquito repellent, we normally get this. And then we use this and put it in the middle of the house, and it just burns. And it's, I think it's environmentally friendly because we don't have chemicals in it. It's just nature, provided by nature, trees. Yeah. So this is the thing. In other places, they use leaves, like lemon leaves. They'll use lemongrass. They plant it in a pot plant and put it in the thing. It repels. Different places have different ways of using things.
And it smells nice too, right?
It smells nice. And some people, they like it to lit this thing before they go to bed. It's handy too when they have a cover session.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do this.
We are in the National University of Fiji campus, and you are a mental health advocate here. And on the way in, I saw a big billboard saying 5G is coming. And there's a lot of discussion, isn't there, about mobile devices, social media and such. And I wonder how you're supporting the students here, I guess, to manage that kind of temptation to lose themselves on those devices. And by the way, we're all guilty of it, right? Yeah. But going back to what you've just said earlier, how do we keep that balance? What kind of advice would you give the students?
Like I said, change is an inevitable event. No one can run away from it. For me, as a mental health advocate, a strong mental health advocate, I would put it that way. It's very important that you have conversation with people, like you have a lot of dialogue with people, especially young people, because too much of something is not good. I think me personally, as a young person, as an indigenous young person, trying to teach people and share your experience of how technology has affected you, the pros and cons of it, and share it with people. Probably it will help people to understand, young people, because I've seen a trend like you were just given something and then you just use it without asking the questions why, how, when, is it important? People just using it because my cousin using it. So for me, everywhere I go, I would talk about these things that are not normally discussed, because we don't want people to be addicted. It's good. Technology is good, but you need to have the right way of using it. The purpose, why, the advantage, the disadvantage. This is the hidden things that people normally don't talk about. And they just stress, oh, it's good. It's like sugar coated. But what's really underneath it, nobody talks about it. I think it's really, really important for people to share something that you go through that you think can help somebody else. One way that I've always liked about my culture, the indigenous Fijian, and also being respectful to other cultures that are present in Fiji, the way that we relate our message, our history through, orally, talking, chants, and traditional ways. And with technologies nowadays, they just on Facebook and Insta and everything. So some places in Fiji that has died out, but some places they're trying to revive it. And the Talanoa sessions, Talanoa storytelling, and that is how we revive our culture and our traditions and history. That is a very important thing, which is history. How does this thing eventuate? How did we came about? Hats off to all my traditional, people that are here. They normally relate stories through olden myths and legends and, meke, traditional dances and artwork. That is one way we kept our tradition.
When we met by the river in the highlands
Yeah.
in a forest village, you were saying about the importance of that there's only so many hours in the day and we have to choose how we use that time consciously.
Priority. I think it all comes up to priority, like how time is the essence of everything. When you value your time, you'll have, a proper time for everything, time management, and you have time for your family. And that is the root or the basic and the very foundation of everything. And in that time, in the olden days, they have more family time. Now we have technology that comes in. We have other things that comes in. And growing up, I see, our old people, they usually have time for us, teach us how to conserve the resources. And that is very, very important. But now, because of technology, because of the changes that are coming in, people are too focused on other things that are not really probably relevant to them, but holistically to see it from another perspective, it does not really matter. You have family that is really important, but now people value other things more than your family. So in the days, like I was saying, we were taught how to look after resources, how to dance properly, and that particular move represents a different thing. A tree, for example, plant for a community, it represents something. So for you to know your history, your culture, you need to know the trees. And because of that, in the day, we were so rooted. We know our culture. We know our traditional link. But now, if you go to a family, a iTaukei family now, I don't know what is my link to that traditional, to that village, because there was no time. Time to, to be with your family, to prepare the younger ones, the younger generation, to be aware of these things. People are so worried about the external things rather than the internal things. We were taught so many things. The type of soil, what does it represent? That bird, if it's chirping at night, what does that mean? The kind of leaves, the weather. We were taught all those things. There was no books. There was no nothing. We were just using trees. If a certain tree blooms, okay, we are in autumn, we are in summer, we are in winter. That's how. But now when you ask the younger generation now, they have literally no idea what is that. So we have our own calendar, we have our own timing. We study the star, we look at these things, and we look at, even rivers, like the time that this fish is about to, give birth and all these things. I would say we were really equipped to know how to survive. That is the most basic thing about human beings. Survival is there. And we were taught that. It was not out of a thesis statement, not a PhD book or whatever. It was through knowledge, sharing traditions, chants, poetry, even clothes, the trees and everything. It spoke to everybody because our ancestors took time. Our grandfathers, our forefathers, they took time to teach, to pass it down. And along the way, when this thing comes in, it kind of disconnect people from their roots. Their roots is the things that are around them, being aware of the things that is just around them.
Yeah, and one of the examples that sticks in my mind is that the village where we met as well, the chief there had sort of said that no one can fish in all of the river right next to the village, apart from on very special occasions. And there would always be, bountiful numbers of amazingly tasty and sacred fish. And that's just this kind of a sustainable way of thinking. On the subject of trees and time, actually, trees are living beings that move slower than us. Do you think there might be something that they can help to teach us and remind us in how we manage our own time?
Yeah, like I remember one time we were sharing and I said that this beautiful, majestic, natural being has been there for so long. And they've seen changes. They've seen people walked in, walked out of that village, people who were born, people that died, and they were there. Thank you for bringing that up because I remember in one of the province, Ra, when they want a traditional dance, for example, they go to this certain tree called Baka. And in order for them to know, like, come up with the lyrics, the choreography of that song, they normally go and sit. Nowadays, people see it as witchcraft, but that was the practice back in the days. They go and sit at this baka tree. I don't know the English term for it. It has that strings that comes down and like
it's banyan or strangler fig. It's called.
Yeah, they normally use that and they communicate with the gods, and then that's how they were given certain dances, all these things. Probably in this time, we would see it like we have to remember the importance of this tree. They withstood so many hurricanes, so many fires, so many flooding, and then it kind of teaches us the importance of being not really persevere. There's a word for it. How to become
Resilient?
Resilient. To become resilient. From a Pacific people point of view, we are resilient, but now people are giving up easily because they do not relate to the things that are around them, which is the trees. The trees and the natural resources that are around them. They withstood so many tests, trials, you name it, and it is still there. I remember I was talking about like sometimes when I go back, the trees kind of remind me I was here at this time when I was young. It's like they hold a capsule of history and they just keep it. And when you come back, it opens up. And if I go back to it, I would remember if I see that plant that we were sitting in, that coconut, it reminds me. You see how it works? It's sort of like a place that we store histories and things. It automatically reminds you of these things. So they are the constant reminder of history. They are a constant reminder of your past. And that is something that I normally learn from trees. If you go down to the western side, they always have bushfires. They always have, because it's so hot. But then after every fire, the tree blooms again. Imagine the vulnerability of that tree. And sometimes life, took toll on us. There's so many things. And we should be reminded of the trees that are around us. Look at the things that are around you. Observe and know that you're not alone in these things. If you think stress, look at the trees. Look at these birds. Look at these things that are around you. If they were given a chance to talk, they will say the same thing. We were so fortunate as human beings to given the gift to speak, to talk, and to share our emotions. But these people, they can't. And like, they just reminds us, the constant reminder of our histories and of our past. And that is what will make us become a mindful person, a very, resilient person, and also somebody that is resourceful.
It's like our bodies know that the answers are out there if we let them connect. And there are lots of herbal and plant-based remedies in Fiji as well.
There's a lot of like incident that happens that we have to depend, like, when somebody got hurt and we had to treat that wound right there and then. If either you were in the interior or you in the outer island, we will hear older people say, oh, got this plant here. Look for this plant, give you description. And then people will get it and they will use it. And it kind of protects you for that time. Trees are not band-aids, but they're like a temporary. It's like nature is giving you like, okay, I'm going to give you this thing. I'm just going to stop it for now, but you have to go and look for another. I'm going to hold this wound now. They are so generous in a way. Like, imagine if I come to you, I need your daughter to do this for me. You wouldn't even do that. Okay, I need this leave. We didn't even say please. We didn't even say thank you. I remember if you have internal bleeding, there's certain medications, herbal medicines that are out there that people normally use in communities. If you go to villages, they would say, oh, these are medicine, herbal medicine that you can use to solve this, or skin infections and all these things. They have different herbs, but it's not documented. Fiji is still too young. Academically, I would say we're still working towards it. But like I said, it is so interesting if we have to really think outside the box. Trees are so generous. They don't complain. If you cut a branch today, come back, it start to grow again. It will never complain. It will never say this or that. If it's time for them to bear fruit, they will bear fruit, even though you didn't pay attention to it. It will continue to do that. So it's sort of like teaching us the art of, being generous and being good to people, even if we hurt you and everything. I remember my late grandmother, we used to have this mandarin tree at home. She would say to me, if you go out and you see a plant and they are not bearing fruit, you speak to the plant. You talk to the plant. You have to apologize to the tree. You have to apologize. Sometimes they hear you speak bad things. And I remember also there's a study that conducted when you put a plant. There's one group they speak negative words to this glass of water with the plant. I think psychologists did this research. And another one they speak good words, encouragement, loving words, uplifting words. But the other group was they speak bad words to it. Well, after that, they saw the plant that they from this group A, it never flourished. It just grew 2, 3 leaves. But this other side, it grew well. So we can clearly see that these people, they listen. Because if I go back to the Bible, we were given the power to take dominions of, I think it is really, really important, to understand and to know the value of these living things, these majestic things that are around us. Like I go back to that, if I want that leaf to heal my wound, I'll just go and break it off. They won't complain. They won't say anything to you, but they will just give it wholeheartedly.
You mentioned Christianity there, which of course was part of the layered impact of colonialism, actually. Yeah. And it has altered how the natural world is viewed here and many other places around the world. But actually, I don't know what you think, but there are different ways to interpret those texts. One of the people that I'm working with at National Trust Fiji, I asked him about the Bible and that sort of, as I see it, instruction about dominion over all other things. But he actually interprets it differently to think that humans are the baby, the child, the last of the creatures created, and therefore we have the most to learn. I thought that was a really nice way of looking at it. But yeah, what's your personal view on how the church might influence that connection factor?
See, a human mind, we receive information and then we interpret it the way that we want it. You get what I'm saying? Like, okay, based on your experience, based on the ideas the preconceived ideas that you have. But for me personally, I would say that the dominions that I spoke about earlier, it's about protect. This is how I translate it. You protect the things that are around you because you were given power, and we are both created by God, but they were created before human beings. You get what I'm saying? They have been living from ages and ages and ages. It's just that because of a human mind, the way we look at things, based on our experience, based on our emotions, based on the things that we already hear, and we interpret it the way we like it. If you see it from the other side of it, you were given dominions to keep them safe, to help them to grow and flourish. I remember in high school, I just remember there was this picture, this tree and this little boy, and there was like different stages. It kind of progressed, one growing and from another. They were both grew up. But this person here gave a walking stick to this boy when he was old. Like they help each other. Dominions for me means protection, means speaking for the voiceless, protecting whatever that is around you and let them prosper. And why are we so narrow-minded by cutting all these things and destroying? Oh, I have this thing. I have the power to cut this, to do this. What if they walk up to you and they take off your ears? Is it good? Is it going to be nice? If you understand the word dominions, you will be mindful of your actions. My final message to everybody, Tom, is just simply be mindful. You need to really know your purpose as a human being on this earth. Knowing your purpose is very important. Really think about this thing and reflect on this word, knowing your purpose. Your purpose is to protect. Your purpose is to help. Your purpose is to look after one another. And that includes the things that are around you. You have to be a good example. We have to be mindful of our action because our action trickles down to the things that we own. Because these things are given to us. We need to protect it and we have to see that it lasts till the future generation comes in.
You've been listening to the Meaning of Trees podcast. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And see you next time.